everyone, Bethany here and welcome to my channel. Today I am working with the Not Too Shabby Shop Stamp and Die set of the month for March. And the theme is Just For You. I absolutely love these flowers, the water can. It's such a versatile set. You can use it for spring, birthday, Easter, Mother's Day, or a Just Because card. And so today I am going to play around with a few elements of layering. I don't have a plan in mind, but we are just going to dive in and start playing. The first thing we're going to do is I have this scrap piece of paper. It's faded from sunlight and I've used it for other dyes. And what I'm going to do is take the Silver Lining Lunar Paste by Simon Hurley, and I am just going to spread a generous layer. What I'm doing is I'm basically creating a new type of paper out of a paper I'm not really in love with, not really going to use. And the lunar paste is basically making a texture for me, but it's also creating color that I am aiming for in my look. So I'm just going to put a few globs down. This does dry fairly quickly, so you want to work fast if you have a thinner layer. I'm actually going to take one of the Simon Hurley scrapers and I'm just going to make that layer a little bit more even by using that scraper. I still want some texture. That brown is going to come through a hair, which I'm okay with because we are going to create a little bit more dimension later on. I'm trying not to get my nails in there, but it might just be inevitable. And after a few good scrapes, I feel like I have enough of a layer that I'm going to just go ahead and clean up my space and be right back. After I've cleaned up with my water and a rag, I let my new paper dry. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through my Cuttlebug using just the dye for the watering can. After running it through the Cuttlebug a couple of times, I was able to get the nice, shiny, silvery watery can, which is exactly what I was looking for. The one tip I do have, though, is because you are working with lunar paste on top of paper, you're going to want to clean the lunar paste off the edges to make sure that your next cuts are clean as well. And so all I'm using is just this little pokey tool that's angled down, and I can just scrape all of the excess of the lunar paste off. It's not a perfect process, but it definitely will help for the next time that you are using the dye to make sure it pierces your paper properly and it's not leaving a lip or edge that will create an uneven cut next time around. Next, I am grabbing a piece of cardstock from the Perfectly Snuggly paper pad from a few months ago, and it may still be in the shop. I will put the link for the shop down below and go ahead and select the Not Too Shabby product line, and if it is still available, it will be one of the first pages or so of product. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it down. I've cut down this lavender piece of cardstock down to an A2 size card front. I'm just going to trim this down a little bit because I'm going to create a 2 pattern look. Once I have it down, I've cut it down to 4¼ by 2½. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a backdrop using one of the stamps from the set. I am grabbing the 2 sets of little bitty hearts and I am going to just create my own little backdrop pattern with these 2 together. Using a stamping block, I am going to create my first layer, which is the open heart. I'm going to use the color Hive Grape inks and just going to turn every so often. I don't want a whole lot of these, maybe 5, and at variant pressures. Then I'm going to take the little tiny hearts that are together and using the same grape color, I'm going to do the same technique. I think I'm only going to put 4 of them down, and same thing, just slightly different pressures. Then after cleaning off the stamps, I'm going to use the slightly darker color, Plum, and I'm going to do the same thing, turning every little bit as I'm placing the hearts down, and I'm going to put a few more of these. I think 6 should do it for me. Now let's make it 7. And then using the same technique with the little hearts. And this one I'm going to do a lot more. Basically, I've determined that these darker colored tiny trio of hearts are going to be my fillers. So I'm even going to stamp a little bit off of the paper. I want these to be prominent. I want them to stand out a little bit more than the rest. And if you're doing something like this and you need to go back with one of the other colors or one of the other stamps, that's totally fine. It's just a matter of preference when you're doing this. Having a smaller stamp block really does help with this technique. And there you can see there's this background that's been created and is pulling everything together. And I've determined that the flower set I'm going to use is this adorable one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stamp it out in some black ink, use the die to cut it out, and meet you back here in a second. Now you can see I've zoomed in on the die cut flowers. I'm going to do the green first. I'm using the GY2 grass green and the GY3 bud green from the Ohuhu alcohol markers. You see I have my colors here so I can compare as I'm coloring in what things are going to look like. So if you watched my last video, I used more of a watercolor style, and I really like this style for my set. So I'm going to do that similar thing where I haphazardly just color in parts and then I come back and keep blending back and forth. It really gives this whimsical look and I am absolutely loving it. So now I'm going to use the other green, which is slightly different, and this one is just going to fill in everything else that I didn't fill in already. And because these alcohol markers blend really well, it just comes out interesting and with a little bit of character. It's not like coloring with colored pencils or anything like that where you have pretty much a stagnant color that's happening, but you kind of give this little splotchiness that it reminds me of using watercolors. And you can see that I am going back over a few extra times where there would be darker or bigger shadows because I don't want it to be completely splotchy looking. And once I'm satisfied with the coloring and texture on that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the purples. The purple colors I've chosen are the R11 Mauve Shadow and P3 Pastel Violet. And I'm using the lighter shade first because this is just supposed to be a bunch of flowers. I'm just circling each bud of the flower and then leaving it so that when I come back behind with this darker color, I can add the detail, the shadows, the fillers, and I can be a little bit more intricate coming behind. This technique offers a bit of dimension that you can't really get with any other material, so I'm really liking it. And then coming back over where I want it to be a smidge darker in that color, and this time you'll see I'm aiming towards the bottom of the petals a little bit more than the tops of the flower petals, trying to cast a smidge of a shadow on the flowers. The last thing I'm going to add is a little hint of the marigold, which is the YR2, right in the center of those flowers. It's not going to pop as much. If I had put the marigold down first, it may pop a little bit better, but because I'm going for that whimsical watercolor look, it's just an addition to that purple. And I absolutely love the coloring of this. So let's go ahead and assemble the card. Off screen, I also stamped and die cut out the sentiment just for you using the Sugar Plum Color Hive ink. So now I want to go ahead and start with my glue. First part I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tablecloth down by gluing it. Next, I'm going to glue those to my Neenah 110-pound cardstock, and that is my card base that I created myself, and line it up as best as I possibly can. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry under an acrylic block. Once that is dry, then I'm going to go ahead and add my watering can using foam tape. Felt like if I added it with glue, it would probably warped too much because the lunar paste added all of that extra texture and source of moisture. So I didn't want it to end up being a wrinkled watering can. So I'm going to place that right about here. And then I'm going to add the flowers using foam tape as well. I'm going to tuck it in as if it were being held inside the watering can. And then taking two smaller pieces of foam tape, also keeping with the theme, I'm going to pop up the cutout sentiment as well. And I'm using that line right there for point of reference to make sure it's even. And there is the final result. I think it's stinking adorable. And now I feel like going ahead and whipping up several more of these. Now I have taken this pastel pink and using the Grape Color Hive ink, I'm going to create this whimsical background look, rotating just a hair every few presses. And then I'm going to use the same technique as the other card, and I'm going to use the darker color as well. So using this Sugar Plum, I'm trying not to overlap. Now that is absolutely adorable. I have this extra piece from the previous card, and all I'm going to do is use this rectangle die and punch out a little frame. And now I've created this cute little plaid windowsill for the watering can that I made another one of. Now I'm going to do my flowers and sentiment. So I have cheated a little bit by putting the flowers that I chose on the lavender cardstock from previous, and I'm going to now go ahead and die cut it out. I also went ahead and stamped and die cut out the happy birthday in the same lavender cardstock, and now we are ready to assemble. So first I'm going to go ahead and glue, Fairly Art glue, the created background to the card base, again using 110-pound cardstock from Neenah, lining that up as centered as possible, and I'm going to place that under an acrylic block to dry. And then once that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and add my little window here. I've cut down 4 pieces of foam tape from my foam tape strip, and I'm just going to put one in every corner. And then I'm going to try to eyeball it. If I'm a little off, it's because I want to be just a hair up and as centered as possible, bringing the focal point to the middle. Next, I'm going to add my watering can, making sure that I have enough space that I'm not going to go over the windowsill or whatever you want to call it too far, but also to leave enough space to put the flowers in. And also I'm going to foam tape the little end there. And next I'm going to add the flowers, and I'm just putting a piece of foam tape right across the back so that no matter where I put it inside the watering can, it should look good. I'm kind of putting it in between the watering can and the window to give it a little bit of dimension. And then the happy birthday, I'm going to get a little fancy with. I'm going to glue it, but I'm going to glue it a little bit off the edge of that window. So it's kind of hanging in midair. So I want to make sure I have enough glue that it'll stay there. So I'm going to press it a little bit to make sure it doesn't move. And then I'm going to add my happy. Now I can't put any pressure on it, so holding it is the best option to give it a little bit of pressure. But there you can see if I try doing anything or moving too quickly, it'll move. I'm also going to glue the edge of the watering can to the flowers. There's a little bit of separation that's happening. So now I'm going to go ahead and just place an acrylic block over this and let it complete drying. And there is the completed happy birthday card. I think this one is stunning as well. I really cannot pick a favorite. I like how things played off of each other in making these, and I couldn't be more happy. So let me know down in the comments below. Did you like the first one with the purple theme with a little less pink, or the second one with more pink and then the purple accents? I think they're fun. I hope you learned a little bit from the techniques of using the pattern paper and using the die cut and creating your own texture with the Lunar paste. I think there's so much fun that could be had using these techniques and using up some pattern paper that just become their own accents as well. Plus the added bonus of creating your own backgrounds. This is something that I definitely like doing a lot of and like playing with the dimensions. Let me know down below which of these techniques were your favorites today. Thank you for joining today's crafty fun. I hope you love this look as much as I do. I am so excited that I thought about this. I had a little bit of inspiration from a lot of different places that made me think this would work out the way it did. So, to all of those people that influenced this idea, thank you so much. Don't forget to support the Not Too Shabby shop. You look down below, I will have links to everything that I used. Don't forget to also jump on over to my channel for more crafty inspiration throughout the month from the Not Too Shabby shop. I am very much looking forward to sharing more with you in the coming future. And don't forget to find the joy in your day and happy making. Bye!